that's dark right now will become black. Is that it? Are you all done?
Breakfast is over.
I think Mr. Bean has had his fill of termites and ants. But how much fun was this, spending our morning having breakfast with a baby Tamandua? I'm Coyote Peterson. Be brave. Stay wild. We'll
Welcome to Comic Storian's Complete Story Series. Here we recap your favorite comic books so that you're up to date on what is happening in a very dramatic fashion. All alterations of the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now this takes place during the events of Civil War II. This is what Sam Wilson was doing during all of the stuff that was happening between Tony Stark and Captain Marvel. If you're curious about the Steve Rogers Hydra thing, no one is aware of it, so he's still working in secret. So let's go ahead and start. Sam thinks back to how things came to be, and feeling helpless. The feeling of wanting to do something, anything, and then it being too late. War filled the skies with heroes, and a war filled the ground with the AmeriCops. The AmeriCops brought law and order to the streets, whether people liked it or not. And Sam's hotline, which he started so that he can help people directly, is filled with nothing more than people reporting how the AmeriCops are harassing people who didn't do anything. The man who started funding this whole thing is super billionaire Paul Keene, who received backing from Senator Tom Harold, who passed a bill that forces federal agencies to cooperate with these AmeriCops. To top it all off, they also have Harry Hauser, a radio host who tells the public how these beatdowns are keeping their kids safe from the unsavory types. Wakeem, Sam's sidekick and the new Falcon, tells everyone that he got pictures of the AmeriCops' beatings to bring them down. Sam tells them that they need a video of them doing it, and no one's been recording. Wakeem says, "Come on! The AmeriCops are bad, and we stick up for the poor people." And Sam tells him, "I know how you feel, but we can't just be going after these guys unless we have proof. I won't be walking into another political landmine, especially not with that other thing that's going on." Not long before Civil War broke out, Tony came to Sam to convince him to be on his side, as well as Carol. They both wanted the current Captain America. On one side, Carol believes that Ulysses can see the future to stop crime before it happens, and she believes that it's a good thing, even though she doesn't know exactly how it works. On the other side, Tony believes that Ulysses is just processing an algorithm determining probability curves and risk levels. The only thing that Sam sees coming from Ulysses is profiling. So he wants to make it clear to everyone on video what his standpoint on the whole thing is. But during his recording, Wakeem tells him that he might want to see this. Sam tries to tell him that he's in the middle of something, and then Misty says, "No, Wakeem is right, you need to see this." With a loud sigh, he looks back at the camera and tells everyone, "You know what his position on profiling the future is?" No. He walks into the next room asking, "What's so damn?" And then he sees the news with another hero known as Rage on the screen. Rage was a 13-year-old kid who fell into some toxic sludge that turned him into an 8-foot-tall, super strong, super fast Goliath of a man. And with what's been going on with the AmeriCops, his name explains his views. Out on the streets, the AmeriCops stop a group of people and tell them that they are in violation of the city's ordinances in regards to loitering. The men ask how can they be loitering when they live here. One of the men then tries to push back, but one of the cops slams the man back, telling him that he's under arrest. Soon the crowd of people surrounding them begins to throw rocks and bricks, telling the AmeriCops to get out of their neighborhood. And among that group is Rage. The AmeriCops tell everyone that if they have an issue with anything, they need to file a complaint with the review board. Rage tells them that maybe he will, but first, he needs their badge number. He rips the badge number off of the officer and a fight breaks out. As Sam watches, he says that he needs to put a stop to this. Elsewhere, at a classified location, U.S. agent John Walker leads a strike team to a known terrorist hideout. John charges in, knocking a group of men over, and as bullets fly, he runs through, beating the men up with his shield. One of the other soldiers reports that they got a call for him from Senate. With one last bash of his shield, he tells the soldier to inform them that he's currently busy. Back over with Sam, him and Wakeem arrive to break the fight up between Rage and the AmeriCops, but as he lands, one of the officers tells Sam that this is an AmeriCops investigation. His assistance is neither requested nor required. Sam tells him that he hears them, but he would like to assist all the same. He then tells him that he would like to try and talk this whole thing out, and that's when one of the officers grabs a hold of his wrist, telling him that this is a formal warning. Sam struggles to pull his arm back, and he says, "Now this is what you don't want to do." Meanwhile, over in Lower Manhattan, John follows up on the call that he's received, and it was from none other than Paul Keene. Paul walks John down to his office, praising him on his latest work. And as the two of them enter, John is greeted by Senator Tom Harold and Harry Hauser. The three men continue to tell John what a terrific guy he is, but John stops them, stating that he's going to stop them all right there. All he wants to know is why the hell is he here? An image pops up on the screen next to him, and Paul says because of this man. They would like John Walker to take the shield back. And that's when we see that they are trying to stage something against Sam Wilson. Back over in the park, Sam tries to play out what the headlines would report if he was to do something. It would either state that Captain America attacks the cops, or Captain America was beaten by the cops. But before he can make a decision, Rage tells him don't worry, and he punches the cop. Sam turns around and asks, what did you do that for? There are other ways to handle things, we can talk it out. And all of the cops begin to walk towards them, and Rage tells them they look like they want to talk. The officers all begin to try and take Sam and Rage down, but up over on a nearby building, Joaquin sits checking his Snapchat when Sam radios in that he needs an evac. Joaquin asks if his wings are broken, and Sam tells him it's not for him. So Joaquin leaps off the building, and in a quick swoop, he flies in grabbing Rage. After a short flight, Joaquin drops Rage onto a nearby cell tower. However, after Rage is taken away, the officers then throw an energy net to contain Sam. They begin kicking and beating Sam, and he thinks to himself how he might just want to accept the loss, and then he remembers he has friends out there. Lots of them. Pigeons start to fly down, building up a nest to protect Sam as he gets the net off. And once he's finally free, he jets up into the sky. That is, until the shield is thrown, knocking him out of the sky. Still a bit delirious from the fall, Sam reaches out for his shield, but before he can grab it, a voice tells him, leave it. John Walker steps onto the shield and tells him, that shield doesn't belong to you anymore. Sam looks up and John goes on stating, I'm just trying to help you out before it's too late. You need to turn that shield over now. Sam stands up shouting, did you not see what went on over there? And John tells him, oh, I saw you attacking people who swore that they'd protect this neighborhood. I know what it's like to have the pressure of the job. The whole thing of Captain America. I've been there too. Furious, Sam tells him, we are not alike. You don't see me murdering people like you did. John leaps forward, pinning Sam down onto the hood of a car. Sam tries to break free, but John just grabs him by the legs and throws him to the side. He continues beating on Sam, kicking him out from a store and punching him over and over again. As blood begins to fill up his lenses, Sam thinks that he may have an idea, and he wraps John's arm up in wire. He then takes off into the sky and he heads for an old train tunnel. John begins to shout, what the hell's the point of this? Flies both into a place where we can't see, and Sam tells him, correction, you can't see, and he flings John into a pile of metal. Sam then takes the fight to John, bashing him with the shield and knocking him down. Once John stops moving, Sam drags John back out into the streets. He begins to cough, spitting up blood, asking, do you think you're so much better than me? And Sam tells him, no. The man who was originally Captain America, even after getting his health back, told me to hang on to the shield, and I trust his opinion over yours. John just stares back and tells him, guys like you think you know everything, huh? Well, you never know as much as you think. After that fight, Sam takes off and heads to the hospital, one where Tony Stark tells Claire everything will be fine, it's just a tiny implant. Sam decided that it was time to accept Tony's implants that would allow data to be transmitted from his brain to processing into images and video. He asks if there are safeguards, and Tony tells him that there are, unless what Carol is doing. Sam just sighs and lays down on the operating table and tells him, just get on with it. A short while later, Sam sits in front of a camera again, giving an announcement. He informs everyone that he isn't happy with how the situation with the AmeriCops and U.S. agent went, but he cannot ignore the messages of the AmeriCops profiling and using excessive violence. That is why from now on he will be monitoring the AmeriCops 24/7, and if he sees anything that confirms those accusations, he will do something about it. But as Sam walks away holding a bottle, he can't help but feel like he's still in the dark, and he remembers John's words, you never know as much as you think you do. And on that note, he's probably right, Sam says to himself. However, earlier in Paul's office, after the suggestion of getting back Sam's shield, John tells everyone that he doesn't like this. This isn't his fight. What they need is the man who this belongs to, Steve Rogers. A voice tells him, I wish it was that easy. And Steve walks in out of the shadows. Steve tells him, I'm sorry for all of the smoke and mirrors, but this situation is sensitive. Even though I don't disagree with everything Sam is doing, he's doing it the wrong way. John asks him, why don't you just ask for the shield back? Steve says, I hate to say this, but we both know what a white Captain America telling a black Captain America to stop being Captain America. The country just can't handle that kind of division. John tells him, stop right there. As far as I'm convinced, there's only one Captain America, and it's you. He extends his arm out, and Steve tells him, Sam is still a good friend and a good man. Just lost his way. It would kill him if he knew what I was asking. As the two of them shake, John says that is not a problem. Mission stays confidential, just between soldiers. We have many, many more side stories for Civil War II to go through, and like I said, they're more interesting than the main plot to me, so I hope you guys are enjoying these as much as I am. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ComicStory, and I'll see you next time, right here. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now, at the end of our last video, the newly appointed Green Lanterns, Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz, managed to fend off against Atrocitus and his Red Lanterns. Though the Rage Seed was planted into the earth, soon Atrocitus and the Red Lanterns left. But as they returned home, Simon and Jessica found a new guardian waiting for them by the name of Rainy, and he has come bearing the Phantom Power Ring. But our story doesn't actually start there. Years ago, there was a pilot by the name of Frank Leminski. He wanted to be the best that there was. He pushed himself to the limit during a flight test when he saw a light that changed his life. The jet Frank was in began to fail. He was saved by the Green Lantern known as Hal Jordan. After seeing the Green Lanterns, Frank knew that he had to be one. When Frank was young, he was never anything special. He was always just there. But now, he can be something. He can be someone. He could be a Green Lantern. So Frank trained, and then word traveled around that there was now a third lantern. He knows that his time is soon. He knows that they are watching him. Soon a fourth lantern was chosen, but that didn't stop Frank from training and preparing himself for the one day that a ring would come and choose him. He even went as far as to try and show the rings what he could do by doing good in the city. However, on his first night of crime fighting, he was left beaten and bloody. He dragged himself back to his apartment and he shouted to the rings, asking, what do they want from him? He's done everything that he can do. What does he have to do to deserve one? And at that moment, a green light began to shine. Before Frank's eyes, a green power ring floated over, telling him that he has the ability to overcome great fear. He has been chosen! Frank shouts that he accepts, and the ring says, welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. And then it begins to state that there has been an error. The ring goes on stating that he does not have the ability to overcome great fear. He has not been chosen. Frank shouts for the ring to stop, but it's already relocated to its new candidate in Guantanamo Bay and shoots off. After that night, Frank saw who the ring went to, and he learned that there are even more lanterns out there. All of them getting a ring, even though he was the guy who really deserved it. But one night, that all changed. As Frank entered his apartment, he found a hooded man standing there. The man tells him that he knows all about him. He knows of a ring that anyone can use. A ring known as the Phantom Ring. Frank stops and thinks about it. A power ring that doesn't have to choose its owner? This is it. He can be the big time now. Frank then smiles and asks, how do I get this ring? And the man says, I will help you get it. I know all about the power rings, because 1 billion years ago, I was Volthoom, the first lantern. A short while later, Frank makes his way to Dearborn, Michigan, and after checking out a few houses, he rings the doorbell of one. And as the woman inside asks what she can do for him, he pulls out a lighter and tells her that he needs to borrow her house. He needs to distract someone. Meanwhile, over at Simon's brother-in-law's house, Simon begins to experience all of the emotions of this spectrum at once. Seconds later, Simon is blasted to the ground by Raimi, telling him to never wear the Phantom Ring again. Jessica runs over telling him that that was amazing, and Raimi shouts, no, that was not awesome. What's the word that you humans use for the opposite of awesome? That's what that was! Raimi then tells them, the Phantom Ring does not evaluate its bearer. There is no shutdown for those less than worthy. There is no safety feature on it, which is why no one should use it. And with that being said, we need to hide immediately. Jessica mentions that she still hasn't gotten word back from Hal, and Simon suggests that they just call for regular backup. Jessica tells him no, she's got this all figured out, and they can't leave Earth. Simon asks if it's because she's afraid to go into space or is it because the Flash is here. And Jessica tells him that this conversation is now over. So Simon says, fine, but where are we gonna go? Jessica says her sister's house in Portland. 2 weirdos and an alien will blend right in over there. But before they can leave, Jessica notices smoke coming from a nearby house. Simon and Jessica run over to contain the fire, and a woman shouts that her daughter is still inside. Simon begins to make a construct to stop the fire from spreading, and Jessica flies inside to have a look for the little girl. After finding her, Jessica tells the little girl that her mom sent her here to get her out of here. She just needs to hang on and not let go. Soon the house begins to crumble and Jessica's barrier ends up protecting the two of them, but then suddenly a giant green hand reaches in, grabbing the barrier. While this is going on, Raimi is sitting out front making sure that no one invades from the skies, and Frank begins to sneak into the house. After a bit of searching, Frank finds the box of the ring and he puts it on. But before he can, a voice tells him, stop! Raimi then tells Frank the Phantom Ring ruined his life. It will not destroy theirs. He should know. He created it. Frank tells him, but I want the power ring! And Raimi begins to charge up for a blast, and that's when suddenly a hand reaches through his body, and Voltham tells him, I was once an ally to the Guardians, but now I will get my revenge. Voltham tells Frank to say the words that he taught him and put the ring on. In desperate day, in hopeless night, the phantom ring is our light. We yearn for power and strength and might. I seize the ring, that's my right. I am the Phantom Lantern. As the light fades, the phantom ring changes, and soon Frank finds himself now as a Green Lantern. A real Green Lantern. Back over at the house fire, Jessica makes sure that the little girl is safe, and Simon puts her aside to look at something. Then the two of them see a green light fly into the sky, and Simon asks, if they are here, who the hell is that? The light they saw was Frank flying away with Raimi. Not long ago in Coast City, Frank asked Voltham if he was going to be alright with the little guy over there. He tells him that him and Raimi have a lot to discuss. So it's time for you to go out and be a hero, Frank. Frank tells him, yeah, it's time for the world to meet the newest Green Lantern. Over in Kansas, a young boy tries to stop his dog from running into a tornado, and the boy's father runs out of the house telling him to get back inside, and that's when suddenly they're hit by a flying tree branch. Soon the boy tries to run back, and the winds begin to pick him up off his feet. But before the boy can fly off, Frank flies in catching him, telling him, don't worry, I'm here to save the day. Back in Michigan, Simon and Jessica are trying to figure out where Raimi and that ring had been taken to, since they can't actually track the phantom ring. It's not a normal ring. Jessica says that she has an idea, and she asks her ring to look for an unidentified emotional spectrum energy signature. The ring comes back with a hit, and it's located in Kansas. Back over in Kansas, Frank tells the local reporters that he was just doing what any hero would do. He just wanted to save the day. Within seconds, Simon and Jessica come rushing and telling everyone to get away from that man. And Frank says, welcome, fellow heroes. And the reporters then ask, aren't you all friends? Simon tells her no, the guy doesn't even have a real Green Lantern ring. He stole it, and we're here to take it back. But before the two of them can blast Frank, the little boy runs in shouting for them to stop. This Green Lantern is a hero. Frank begins to laugh, asking, who are these two people? The Ring Police? Who are they to say that I don't deserve a power ring? Who's to say that they deserve their rings? Simon stops and then says, I deserve one. And Jessica adds that the greatest man to ever wear a ring states that they deserve it. Frank then thinks back to when Hal saved him, and all of the emotions begin to rush through him, and he begins to change back into the Phantom Lantern. Frank tells everyone to shut up! I'm a real Green Lantern! He then turns back to the little boy, but as he looks, the boy tells his dad, I want to go back inside now. All of the emotions begin to change rapidly within Frank, and he shouts, I've earned this! The ring belongs to me! An explosion goes off, and Simon and Jessica grab the locals and reporters to shield them. But through the smoke, all they can hear is Frank shouting, mine, mine, mine! Frank begins tearing through the home, shouting, where are the rest of the power rings? They're all mine, mine, mine! Simon and Jessica come rushing and telling Frank to take the ring off, and Frank yells at them, stating, I know what you want! You can't have it! And he rockets out of the house. The structure of the house begins to fall, and Simon and Jessica have to stay there to protect the family inside. But after they get outside, Jessica begins to ask, where did that guy go? And Simon says there's only one place someone obsessed with becoming a Green Lantern would go, Coast City. And over in Coast City, Frank tries to control himself, but all of the emotions keep changing within him. As Avarice begins to take back over, Frank tells Voltham that he wants the rings! He wants the very first power ring! Give it to him! And Voltham shouts, silence! Control yourself! Do you really wish to be a Green Lantern coward? Frank begins to focus back on his dedication, and slowly he begins to change back into Will. Voltham stops for a moment and asks, where are the other lanterns now? And Frank tells him that he changed into an orange lantern and he flew out as fast as he could. Voltham then yells at him, you just led them straight here! Stop being a pathetic weakling and prove that you're worthy of the Phantom Ring. Outside, flying over the city, Jessica asks if this guy is really as irredeemable as they think he is. And Simon responds with, what are you talking about? That guy's a wannabe tool. Jessica begins to argue, who are they to judge him? What if they really don't deserve their rings? And Simon thinks about it and begins to think, why is he pursuing this guy so hard? Maybe it's because he wants the Phantom Ring for himself? Jessica begins to think about how she's really afraid. If this guy shouldn't be a Phantom Lantern, then maybe she shouldn't be a Green Lantern. And then Simon's ring goes off with an emotional spectrum disturbance located in Memorial Park. Out in the park, Frank begins posing, telling everyone that he's here to hang out with regular people, just like them. And yes, he's totally cool with taking selfies. As Frank stands there, the people begin to laugh and they begin to mock and make fun of him. And suddenly a construct forms around his hand. When he looks up, he sees Simon controlling the construct, trying to take the ring off. And Frank shouts at him to stop! I can't lose the ring! And his color begins to change to yellow as fear begins to overwhelm him, and he shouts that he will fight them with their biggest fears, themselves. The two yellow constructs of Simon and Jessica begin to charge at the real Simon and Jessica, and Frank tells them that they're being pathetic because their own fears are themselves. And then the Phantom Ring begins to change again. Jessica's fear tells her that she can't do this. She's a failure as a Green Lantern because she doesn't have strength. And Simon's fear crushes down on the construct that he made to fight and tells him how his ring is too weak. All he needs is his gun. The gun will make him feel safe. Meanwhile, during this fight back at the apartment hideout, Raimi wakes up to see Voltham. Raimi leans in stating that he didn't hear much news about the exile, but he did hear how he died, killed by Necron. Voltham then asks if he heard the part where he became all-powerful and almost got revenge on the Guardians. Raimi says that he knows that he's just trying to do the old Malthusian transfer. He taught it to him, but do not go down this path. Raimi goes on to say that no matter what happened back then, you need to listen now. The Phantom Ring was never perfected. In fact, it was barely tested. With a direct connection to the emotional spectrum and no safety regulators, that human is going to explode. Then Raimi asks Voltham if he remembers when he had a power battery put into his chest, the kind of connection that he had. After the battery was ripped out, they had to send him into the Chamber of Shadows and make the Spectrum technology forbidden. Everything that he did in the name of peace and security for the universe. And Voltham shouts, "No more lies! You're a traitor! You put the battery into my chest!" The blast knocks Raimi down, and through his coughs, he says, "You were the one that begged to have it put in there!" But now that he is barely a ghost, Voltham says that it will be his pleasure to use Raimi as a weapon of revenge. Back outside, Jessica begins to think back to when her sister told her how she's going to be the best of the Green Lanterns, and Jessica begins to think she's right. And a construct finally begins to form. As the construct grows, it shoots through the Fear Construct's head. Over with Simon, his Fear Construct tells him that once he's down here, I will go for your nephew next. Using all of his strength, Simon makes another Gauntlet Construct and begins beating the Fear Construct until it fades away. As the two of them get back on the ground, Frank begins screaming as the emotions begin cycling through his current feelings, each change blasting Simon and Jessica away. But after he finally changes back to fear, Frank begins to ask, "Why are you trying to help me?" And Simon tells him helping people is what we do. And Jessica tells him, it's pretty much our jam. That's what being a Green Lantern is all about. But the emotions begin to change again, and soon another explosion goes off, this one much bigger than the last. As the smoke begins to clear, Simon and Jessica burst out through the ground ready for another fight, and that's when they see Frank as an Indigo Lantern, one of compassion. Frank then calls down to the two of them, telling them that they had every right to let him die, but they've saved him, and because of that, the compassion has bloomed in his heart. He has done some terrible things, but just now he realized how precious every human life is. All he wanted was to become a hero, but instead he put everyone in danger. He was not ready for a power ring. He must take it off immediately, and just then, the ring slides off, and Frank reverts to his normal self. Before Frank has a chance to realize that he took the ring off, Simon charges in, knocking the ring out of his hand. Jessica quickly grabs it and slides it on. Soon she feels all of the emotions of the spectrum, and then it falls back to Will. Not a ton of other emotions, just Will. Frank shouts for her to take off the ring, and she tells him sure, she doesn't need it to do this. And she wraps him up in a construct. She tells Simon to check her out. She's finally starting to feel like the ring was made for her, or she was made for the ring. Does it even make sense? And she hands the Phantom Ring over to Simon, who debates sliding it back on, but before he has a chance to, Jessica calls out to him as she continues making constructs, and Simon decides maybe he shouldn't wear that ring. The two laugh about their adventure, and then a voice calls out to them, and they both turn around to see Vath Sarn and Ismot Cole, two different Green Lanterns responding to the call for backup, and both asking, what the hell is all of this? Simon tries to introduce the two of them to Jessica, but they say that they got the emergency beacon, so where's the emergency? Simon tells them, well, it's kind of a long story. You see, Frank here stole the Phantom Ring. Vath stops him and says that he's never heard of the Phantom Ring before, and this doesn't seem like an emergency. Soon all four of them hear the voice of Raimi telling them that it is in fact an emergency. Ismot says that he thought the Guardians were dead, and Raimi tells him that he's not dead, just exiled. Simon asks what about Voltham, and Raimi holds up an energy sphere, telling them that Voltham has been vanquished. He won't be escaping this energy sphere. Ismot tells Raimi that he needs to come back with them to the planet Mogo. John Stewart will need to speak with them immediately. And Raimi looks at them and says, who are you to order me around? I created the first of the Green Lantern rings, and I will remain on Earth to assist Simon and Jessica since no one of the Corps will. Jessica laughs, telling Raimi that he told them off. Being old does have its advantages, huh? And then Jessica asks what happened with Voltham that allowed him to escape. Raimi says that Voltham was an old friend, so it was easy to trick him into defeating himself. And as the three of them walk away, Raimi tells them that they're both undisciplined and untrained, but they have the potential to shine. So with their strength and his guidance, the energy sphere begins to form a face. That's when we see that it's Raimi shouting, "That's not me!" And Voltham, as Raimi, finishes, "The Earth will be in good hands." And this concludes one of my favorite new arcs in the Green Lantern saga. The idea of a phantom ring is just amazing. A ring that has no limitations and you can be every one of the possible lanterns out there with all of the different powers. That's just so cool and gives us a lot of potential for a really, really big bad guy eventually. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the Phantom Ring, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ComicStorian, and I'll see you next time right here.
Yo, what up, guys? This is your boy Chuck the Cybercuck, and I will be hosting today's episode. We're gonna be talking about Tien Shinhan, you know, the Triclops boss, and why he should not be underestimated in the coming tournament. Why I believe, and there's some evidence that will point towards him having some sort of new potential or some latent power within him that he'll bring out and prove to everyone why he's not fodder. So, before I begin, if you guys enjoy this type of content, if you guys like Seth the Programmer making analysis and, you know, debunks, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell button if you want to be notified of new uploads. So other than that, let's begin. Many people in the DBZ community seem to downplay my boy Tien, and the main reason is because they think Tien's fodder, that he's nothing, and that they'd rather have Goten or Trunks in the team, even though when it comes down to it, Trunks and Goten don't really do shit. They just like play around and play with their toy. That's all they do. They're not really fighters per se. Like every once in a while they train, but here's the thing. People seem to think that power is everything. When, you know, Tien and Piccolo, they have strategy and they have more experience than them. And we saw Piccolo during the last Universal Tournament go in, you know, he was able to, you know, keep up with Frost and was, you know, pretty much stronger than suppressed Goku, and he was able to break Vados' barrier. So people seem to really underestimate the other Z fighters that are not Saiyans. And I'll prove to you why that is not the case, why Tien is not fodder. Now the thing about Tien is that he was able to go in on the Cell arc. So, if you guys remember, when he uses a Kai Koho or the Neo Tri-Beam, he's actually able to hold down second form Cell. When, for example, Android 16, he punched him and it didn't do shit to second form Cell. He just like, he didn't even like blink or anything. He just took it. You know, during the Boo arc, he was actually able to like survive a kick from Boo tanks, and he was actually able to blast him in half. Even though Tien hasn't had that much time to shine as the Saiyans, he's definitely had his moments. And now there's actually some really good reasons as to why Tien would definitely be making a great comeback during the survival arc, using an author interview from Akira Toriyama, and of course using evidence from how he's been training and how he's not been slacking off. Now the following piece of information I will be using from some sort of Shonen Jump or some Dragon Ball magazine feedback where Akira Toriyama answers a bunch of people's questions, so here's how it goes. What's up with the third eye on my main man Tien Shinhan? Is Tien Shinhan human? And Akira Toriyama replies with, in certain parts of Asia, beings with a third eye on their forehead are thought to be godlike, and are said to possess the power of true seeing. It seems that Tien Shinhan, who was raised by the evil Pseudo Sennin, or the Crane Hermit, lost the ability to use the myriad powers of his third eye for good purposes. Now, what does this mean? So, since Tien was basically corrupted, you know, to be evil during the early Dragon Ball, you know, by being influenced by the Crane Hermit, he wasn't able to unlock his full potential with the third eye, and he lost his ability of true seeing and be godlike. So now think about it. He's been training for many, many years after Dragon Ball, after, you know, basically seceding from the Crane Hermit and becoming a good guy. Now, who's to say that he hasn't by now unlocked his third eye's full potential? Think about it this way, the Namekians are able to get stronger by syncing with like other members of their species to become one being, or they can of course become whole like Kami and Piccolo did. And Saiyans can get stronger through Zenkais, right? Each race has one specific like way to get stronger. Now who's to say that humans don't also have some sort of ability to get stronger? We do have to keep in mind though that Tien isn't exactly a regular human, because it's actually implied in the Daizenshu that he's a human with special power, so that he has some sort of other origin behind him. We don't really know that much about him apart from that. And of course we know that he's able to use other crazy abilities. For example, in early Dragon Ball, when he fights against Kid Goku, he literally grows 4 arms. Alright, so like Machoke evolved to Machamp, like right there and there. And that's something that we've never seen Krillin do, for example, or Yamcha. And, you know, Tien Shinhan's abilities are really, they're more based on strategy, technique, rather than power. You know, for example, the Kaiko Ho, even though Tien himself isn't that strong, when he was, you know, when he was in the Android Saga, he was actually able to, you know, hold down someone who's many times stronger than even Frieza. And of course, Piccolo, with the special beam cannon and charging it up, you know, with his many clones, he would have been able to actually knock out Frost. And he was actually able to destroy battles with Barrier, which is pretty impressive, even though Piccolo himself is not, like, on their actual level. But his techniques are definitely strong enough to cause damage to someone that strong. So now, many of you guys may be asking, like, how does Tien unlocking his third eye's full potential mean he's gonna get stronger? How is this exactly linked? Well, before we answer this question, we need to look into what exactly is a third eye. Now, if you look in many Eastern cultures and religions such as Hinduism, the third eye is basically like a gateway to achieve a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of perception or awareness. Basically, you are becoming enlightened. So someone with a third eye will be able to perceive things that someone without a third eye wouldn't be able to perceive it, right? And now we go through this mental enlightenment, then how does this exactly link to Tien getting stronger? If you guys do not know, Ki is made up of 3 components, which is spiritual, mental, and physical elements, or components, right? So if Tien basically becomes woke by unlocking his, you know, true potential, his full potential of the third eye, you know, and basically obtaining godlike status or, you know, the power of truth seeking, and, you know, essentially increasing his levels of mental energy or mental strength, then so would his physical and spiritual levels. And if all those 3 levels increase, then so would Tien's overall Ki output. So he'd be able to get much stronger through this. So guys, on a closing note, just don't underestimate Tien, alright? He's definitely going to have some sort of new potential or new powers to unfold in this tournament. He's going to prove to everyone why he's not fodder and why he's actually, he's become a really strong fighter during the years. And I believe this may have something to do with his third eye, that he might have unlocked some more power through it. Now I'm not saying, oh, he's gotten some superhuman god form, but he's definitely able to unlock some power within him to get stronger. And think about it, he was at the tournament, was he not? So he saw all those fighters. Do you guys really think he's going to come into the tournament without being prepared or having something like under his sleeve? Of course not. He's a strategist. He's gonna have something to use just in case. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this analysis. It was really fun for me to make. So as I said, subscribe to Set the Programmer if you guys want to see more content like this. We're gonna have some really nice videos out for you guys this month. By the way, if you guys enjoyed me hosting this episode and want to see more content from me, I'd really appreciate if you guys could subscribe to my channel. It'll be down in the description below. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. We love you all. Peace out.
Let's make magic. Someday I'll be just like you.
Cast a spell. I want to cast a spell. You want to buy a funnel cake? The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Well played.
About a week ago, the YouTuber Quickend made a tattoo collector's tag, and she tagged me in it, and all of you guys have been telling me to do this video. Since then, here I am doing the Quickend's tattoo collector's tag video. Woo, woo, woo. Question number 1 is, do you consider yourself a tattoo collector? And honestly, not really. It's kind of difficult. I don't know if I'm a tattoo collector or not. I get tattoos. I get the tattoos I want on my body. I don't do it with like a collecting purpose. I don't get tattoos as collectibles. I get tattoos because I want something on my body, I find an artist who is good at what they do, and I just get it done. So no, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a tattoo collector. But on the other hand, if I was traveling or something, I would consider getting a tattoo by someone from that trip, or from like, if I meet a famous tattoo artist, I wouldn't mind getting a random tattoo from that person as a collectible. So my main like attitude towards tattoos is not that I collect them, but I would get a collectible tattoo. I guess I just don't see the tattoos that I have as a part of my collection. Like if I got a tattoo just to remember something, like remember a trip or remember meeting a person or something like that, or I meet someone famous, like I said, why am I holding this remote? Then that would be a collectible, but I don't see all my tattoos as collectibles. The sun is going in and out a lot, I don't know. Might get a little bit overexposed, but that's okay. Question number 2. Do you have a specific tattoo that turned you into a tattoo collector? Well, as I said, don't really consider myself a tattoo collector. But I mean, every